So our next speaker, as you heard Mike explain, is from Expedia, a service that I use all the time. Too much, maybe. Joe Megibow is VP of General Manager of Expedia. So Joe, will you come up now and talk about the customer and Expedia?
Thank you, Guy. And just a correction, it is not possible to use Expedia too much. Let's just get that out there. So I'm thrilled to be on this stage, not for the reasons you probably think I am. See, I've got 3 boys, and as I was leaving for this trip, one of them said, "Where are you going on your trip, Dad?" And I said, "Orlando." And he gave me a look and said, "Are you going to Disney?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm going to be on Disney property." He goes, "Are you going on the Disney rides?" And I said, "No, I'm just going to be with a bunch of business people." He said, "Good, because if you go on the Disney rides without me, you're in big, big trouble." So this is a much safer place for me to be. Thank you for that. What I am going to talk about is how we use data and analytics and business intelligence to know our customer and some of the humbling things we've learned about ourselves and ways that we've been able to improve our service offerings to have a better experience for our customers. So it all began, or excuse me, a little bit about Expedia first. We've got a lot of customers. We've got a lot of data. So 90 million unique visitors a month just for the Expedia brand, $17 billion in bookings last year, about 30 million transactions. We're tracking across all of our different international versions of the site and our partner sites and affiliates, about 110 different sites we're tracking, and that all rolls in just from the analytics side of about 500 terabytes, about half a petabyte of data, and that's growing faster than I can keep track of. But this began about 6 years ago. I actually, back in '99, helped get a company off the ground called Tea Leaf Technology. And about 6 years ago, I jumped ship and joined the Hotels.com group, was owned by Expedia. And as I came in, I was looking around and looking at the data. Everyone seemed to have the same question for me. "Joe, go figure this out." And the question was, why does our checkout conversion suck? It seemed like a noble question. So I was looking, and sure enough, as we looked at the funnel reports, people were getting through the checkout process and just going way to the end. These people were going all the way through the checkout process but not buying at alarming rates. And it was confusing why. Why would they go all the way through the checkout process and then abandon? What was the source of these abandonments? And we were trying to figure that out. So we had Tea Leaf. I started digging in, looking at sessions. In fact, I just started replaying. I spent an all-nighter looking at about hundreds of sessions about what was happening to these users who made it all the way through the process but didn't buy. And I discovered something. So it turned out at that time on Hotels.com, you had to have an account. So to buy, you had to do one of 2 things. You either had to log in or create a new account. Now, this created an interesting scenario. Well, what if you created a new account, but you already had an account on file with the same email address? And our clever engineer said, well, you know what? If you have the same email address and the same password, just let it slide and kind of pretend like they logged in. But if you use the same email address and a different password, you got this weird error state going where it started saying things like, remember, you're creating a new account here. It said, your password's invalid. I'm like, what? I just put a password in. Did I not get the 2 passwords right? Did they not match? Let me try that again. No, your password's invalid. And it turned out there were a bunch of other things going on, too, where literally the messaging we were getting, people were going through and trying to buy. I mean, in fact, think about this. Someone's come to the site. They've looked at all the hotels. They found a great hotel they like. They found a price they like. They said, I want to book this hotel. They put in their traveler information. They put in their billing address. They put in their credit card. They're literally saying, please take my money. They're clicking the book now, the take my money button, and we're saying, no, no hotel for you. I mean, it was crazy. So I started looking, well, how often is this happening? And holy moly, about 1 in 5 customers who clicked that Book Now button never resulted in a transaction. So I marched into the general manager's office, my boss at the time, and I said, we have an outage going on. And he quickly looked, and he's like, no, there's no outage alerts, Joe. You're being melodramatic. What's going on? And I explained this all to him. He said, you're right. This is an outage. It's just a different kind of outage than we've talked about before. And he did it. He called the outage alert. We opened the war room. We got everyone in. And within a couple days, we figured out what was broken, and we fixed it. And we saw step function improvement in conversion. Absolutely amazing. So a couple lessons here. First, I realized it's not about the funnel and traditional metrics of abandonment. you've got to go deeper and understand the intents. What were they trying to do? They were trying to buy. They weren't abandoning. They couldn't get through the process. And more importantly, you've got to translate data into actionable terms. By characterizing it as an outage, as the pain that we were causing for consumers, we drove action across the organization. And in fact, literally invented a new unit we've tracked for years now, which we call purchase success rate, PSR. Are people trying to buy actually able to transact? But this was a really manual process. I mean, I was digging through stuff, staying up all night, and there had to be a better way. How do you find this stuff? And we had other data coming in. We had feedback loops and surveys and on-site feedback and call centers. But that data was really hard to act on. I mean, you got these great personal stories, but I couldn't get the context under the hood. And I had this epiphany. I said, hey, well, we can tie this all together. It was sort of my Reese's peanut butter, you've got your chocolate and my peanut butter moment. And when we combined them, we said, hey, anytime anyone talks to us, we can combine it with the back-end data. It tasted just as good. We started minting money from this. It was amazing. Customers would talk to us. We could quickly figure out what was going on, size, prioritize. And things like this. I'd already solved all the account problems. I'd already solved all the login problems. Yet we launched a new loyalty program, and within weeks, we started to get comments like this. This was an actual comment. I'm unable to log into my account. It's not recognizing my email. I saw that, and I was mad. We'd solved all these login problems. One click, I'm into what's happening with that user. I'm seeing what happened, and sure enough, they couldn't log in, and I could see over the prior days they had been logging in with the same account. Their account was gone. Now, with a loyalty program, and there's suddenly economic value in the account, I had points that I'd earned. Suddenly they cared. Because it turned out we were vaporizing about 6,000 accounts per day for years, probably, because of some errors that we discovered. And it wasn't until we put value on the accounts, the consumers had a reason to want the accounts, and they talked to us, that we figured this out. And very quick turn on that, which really gets to my second lesson, which is you've got to listen to your customers. I mean, your customers, all of your customers are talking to you every single day. Are you listening? And are you prepared to act on what you hear? Give your customers a voice, they'll give you gold. So I went up to Expedia, and we started looking at the same kind of thing. And in this case, we knew there was trouble. We knew that people were failing on the credit card. We were trying to figure out why were so many people failing on the credit card. And we wired up some stuff in the call center. We started digging, and we came onto an interesting truth. So here was our checkout page at the time, the last step in the process. Put in your credit card and information, your first and last name, and the billing address. But notice above the billing address, there's this one extra field here. It's optional, has a little parentheses, optional company name. Now, to a normal consumer, they're filling this out. And there's a school of thought in UI that if you put a field in front of people, they'll fill it in. So they did, and you're putting it in, and company name. I don't know, I'm just a person. Staring at my credit card right now. Oh, they must mean like Chase or Bank of America or something like that. So they put that in. Well, now I've kind of crossed a little leap here and asked for address right under that name. Well, I can imagine them going and getting their billing statement and finding the address of where they send in their payment each month, because that's the address some people put in here. And obviously, when we did address verification on the credit, it failed. And it turned out it was failing a lot. So we were pretty good at acting on the data at this point. So I went to engineering, and literally within a couple of days, I just said, there were no committees, there was no planning session. I just said, delete the field, wipe it, strike it from the face of our site. I'm not even sure how it ever got on there. It was gone. And overnight, another step function drove $1 million of incremental profit per month by deleting a field off of a page. There's a lesson here. Less is almost always more. There's a temptation as marketers, we just heard marketers and technology, to get data, to drive insights, put fields up there, make them make choices, cross-sell them on things. If you're not putting something in front of your consumers that delights them, that they want, that helps them along, you're creating friction, and friction reduces conversion. We are passionate about reducing friction. So yesterday you heard about urinals, so I felt compelled to put my own potty humor in here. So a question about this. So how many of you have used your cell phones here? Hands up. Okay, so more than Justin Bieber concerts. I'd say maybe about 5% of the audience. So it turned out Google ran a behavioral study on this, and so I know what the answer is. And I'm sorry to say, but it's early, but you're lying. It turns about 39%, almost 4 in 10 users, have voluntarily acknowledged in surveys that they use their smartphones here. I suspect it's probably higher than that. So why do I say this? Mobile's different. The behaviors are different. Usage patterns are different. If you think of mobile as just your desktop site on a small screen, you're going to miss some very important things. We missed some things when we started. So a couple years ago, we launched our first real presence in the app world, and we launched an app called Trip Assist. It was an itinerary management solution. Now, we already had an app in the store. It was another basic, I think it was called the Expedia Itinerary app, and it had 100,000 users, something like that. But it had been built as a hack, and this was our first real play into it. And first thing we knew is we needed to get data. So we did something smart. We instrumented the heck out of it, and we made sure when we launched we had a way to get feedback. And holy cow, did we get feedback. We got 5 times more feedback on a usage basis from mobile than we did on any other channel we'd ever seen. They wanted to talk to us. Fortunately, we set up to listen. And we got some interesting feedback. So we launched, and literally within days, we got feedback like what's in here. Just updated the app, and it didn't carry over my account information from Expedia, my itineraries. Useless. Like, that's a nice bit of feedback for us. So what was going on? Well, it turned out our engineers, as they often do, get a little too clever. And for those users that already had the old version of the app, which we weren't even really thinking about, this was a new app, new code, new everything, the engineer said, well, if they're already logged in the old app, we'll just, even though it's all new code, that credentials are stored in a key vault, we'll just grab it and make it simpler on them. So what happened is our best users came in, got the launch screen that everyone got, that we had designed and tested, which was either sign in or just get going. Well, our best users were already logged in. Our best users were people who were going to sign in. They clicked on sign in. Remember, they're already logged in. And the only action on this screen, because their info was already in there, was sign out, which they did. So not a very good experience. But because we got feedback, because we instrumented, we found this literally within 24 hours of launching. We're able to quickly get a new version up within a couple days where it was statefully aware. And when you saw it, you saw, OK, you're already logged in. Sync my stuff. So the lesson here, mobile is different. Social is different. What's a page view in mobile? What's a click? What's a session? What's a conversion? It's all different. And we're designing entirely new experiences in mobile based on the insights we're getting by recognizing it's a different customer and different things. So my final lesson, we now for many years been getting really good at focusing on the consumer and more consumer capabilities. And we realized our brand wasn't keeping pace anymore. And we wanted to refresh our brand. And the one thing we knew for sure is that more people were coming to us every day than any other travel site. We had more to offer than any other travel site. And we came up with this concept of find yours to really encapsulate that belief. So I'll show that to you now. So we're very proud with how that turned out. And by the way, every single frame of that was real users. We actually took it all off of YouTube. So those are real travelers, real people, real stories. We didn't film one frame for this campaign, and it's part of what the whole campaign is built around. But there's a data piece to this. When we launched it, I was really concerned about the opening frame, this. Just our logo. And I went to my head of brand marketing, and I said, I think there's a little bit of hubris here to assume that all of the US knows our logo. We're not that well known. And he said, well, he gave me a bunch of marketing gibberish and why this was all okay. And I said, okay, fine. Can we test this somehow? So he did. He went and ran a test. And we did this analysis. We put a whole bunch of logos, both travel and endemic logos and non-endemic, other logos like Target and AT&T and so forth, and said to people, do you recognize these logos? And ran a conjoin on it. And we found exactly what I thought we would. Logo like Target's bullseye was like 99% recognition. AT&T's logo is like 80% recognition. Our logo, 22% recognition. So I said, aha, I was right. We're basically saying 4 out of 5 people who see this ad won't have any idea who this is until 57 seconds into the commercial. That can't be good. He said, aha, I tested something else, Joe. See, I showed 2 versions of the ads to different groups. One, this version that you saw, and another version that had the Expedia name next to the logo at the beginning, the word mark, same ad otherwise. And we tested it. And on all the dimensions, you measure these things. Relevance and engagement and recall, intent to buy, and all these things. The ad that didn't say Expedia at the beginning outperformed by 10% or more in all dimensions. So I was right, and I was terribly wrong. And there are a lot of interesting reasons, which is for another conversation. But there's a lesson here, which is get back to you've got to listen to the voice of your customer. You've got to listen to your customers. You've got to trust the wisdom of crowds. Test. Learn, let them vote with their wallets, let them vote with what they're saying, and get the right solution. So does this work? Well, here's our last 4 years of our stock price normalizing TripAdvisor, which we spun out back in. And it's a pretty good story. That's between 4 and 5x growth over the 4 years. Now, is it all because of this? I'm not going to say that. But I mean, our CEO has gone on the record as talking about our maniacal focus on conversion, our maniacal focus on the customer. So with that, I leave you with a final bonus lesson, really my philosophy on how you pull all this data and analytics together. So first, it's not just about the data. It's not about the reports. It's only about what you do with it. I tell my people, don't just count, do. Take action. Make decisions. And with data, with test and learn, the learning part means you've got to make mistakes. You've got to push yourself. You've got to take action, measure the results, make mistakes, and your consumers will be better for it. So that's what I wish for all of you. I sincerely hope each of you can have some of the success we've had with this. Thank you very much.
I love your stories. I love those stories. That's, as an author, those are the kind of stories we look for so we can support what we want to say. Oh, I love that. I'm gonna rip off a few, okay?
You're welcome to. Rip away.
Part of being an author is knowing what to rip off. I mean, seriously. So I have a question.
You said what, not who.
I have a question for you. So, there are, I don't know, 40, 50 travel sites, right? How does a travel site like Expedia differentiate itself from all the other ones? I mean, everybody kind of says best price, best selection, all that kind of stuff. So how do you differentiate Expedia from everybody else?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and it has become very commoditized. And we made a decision internally: are we going to be a commodity and just manage costs, or are we going to try to not be a commodity? And I think what you've seen, and I've always believed this thing about enchanting your customers. I don't know if you've heard anything about this.
What a great word!
But we
resisting you is futile.
Exactly. No, it's you've got to come up with consumer value propositions that consumers want. And what we've realized is by focusing on the customer, by giving them the choices, the selection, as well as capabilities and features. We've launched a new loyalty program. We've launched capabilities on getting the best recommendations to the user. And there's some amazing new programs we've got coming out in mobile and online. But the idea is differentiate through service, differentiate through getting it right for the customer more often than not. And we believe that's a way to stand out.
Do you think that going forward, that mobile is the key for you? Are people buying it there? Are they just looking there? Or how does it work, mobile versus desktop for you?
Yeah, it's if you think about travel and mobile, I think the definition of travel is not being home,
right,
not being at work. And when you're traveling today, you've always got this little portable computer with you. So, I mean, we've recognized there's something there. The travel and mobile are built for each other. And literally a couple years ago, before we had done anything, we still saw 1 or 2% of our users transacting through mobile, just through the full website. And in 2 years, we've seen that grow to over 10%. So, I mean, it's a crazy growth pattern. And the important thing we realized is it's different. So mobile, for instance, 70% of all transactions we're seeing on mobile are for people saying, I need a hotel room for tonight where I am right now. Totally different usage behavior, but that demand's out there. We didn't invent the demand. It's out there, and we're finding new ways to service that.
All right, all right. Thank you very much for your stories from the trenches. Thank you.
Thank you,
Joe.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.